Oh man, I have been looking forward to this day for a long time where I can get down to just one patrol. So at this time, I really need to catch this up. If you haven't seen the first couple of episodes, we really got off to a really rough start with this project. The original patrol chassis, which is the one behind us here, has a bit of a twist in it. This is what we found. The VIN numbers don't line up with the cab that's sitting on the back there. So we were prepared to repair the cab. We were looking for just a chassis. We got really lucky, found a complete roller with a blown motor. Really good chassis, matching numbers with the cab. So today we're going to try and get this rolled out of the shed, get the new chassis or the freshly sandblasted and painted chassis back in here and start assembling. So first of all, this morning we're going to get that out, try and get the other chassis back in, and then we'll run through the process, what we actually did to that chassis, because it looks mint. I really feel like I need a mullet.
You know what they say? Soot gets the
Copper's attraction.
That's right.
You're buying someone else's problem. If you've got the money and time to do it yourself, all well and good, but to pay someone to do it, it's not cheap. Yeah, no drama, throw another 30 at it.
It is what it is.
Because it's twisted. So here it is in all its glory, a freshly painted, matching numbers, dead straight, GQ, single cab patrol chassis. But let's rewind the clock a bit because there's a fair bit of work to get to this point. So James, you had the great idea. We were about to start attacking the chassis with a wire wheel. And we sort of come to the conclusion that it's just going to be easier to strip the thing bare, get it to the sandblasters and get them to sandblast and coat it properly. So we're going to go ahead now, remove all the arms, the diff housing, the rear fuel tank, load it onto the trailer and then off to the sandblasters.
You want to just rip the front diff out of it now?
Yeah, while it's on the ground, and then we'll just roll them out, leave the wheels on it, and that's the way we can move them around. And then also roll them around to clean them up. And then as we go, pulling arms out, I suppose we write a list of bushes that we need.
Yeah.
It's good that this is the new chassis obviously, and it's got custom or heavy duty control arms, tie rod link, adjustable panhards, drop boxes. So it's got some cool bits in it that would have been something we would have had to have bought anyway, but we'll just see what bushes they need. Go on.
They weren't going to fall off.
All them bits. Right, so we're going to replace all the bushes in the rear arms, the rear bushes in the front arms, and probably have a look at the panhard bars. But we're not going to go replacing everything just for the sake of it. There has obviously been a lot of upgrades to this suspension in this car over time. So there's probably a lot of bushes that have already been done. So we just replace what we need to. Those arms will get sandblasted, so we'll chuck them in the trailer with the chassis. But it looks like James has jumped straight into the press here, probably knowing that the other alternative job is to jump on the gurney. So we'll go and gurney the diffs off. Well played, lad. Well played.
Yep, 100%.
I've done all the gurneying. What have you done?
I am having fun with this. Second. Come on, Barry, Emma.
It's got some. Oh. Oh. Oh.
I know, that's what I said.
Jesus. That's ridiculous.
Just let her sit for a minute, she'll probably go. Wake up.
Wake up, Jeff.
Wake up. No, she went.
It went.
Go.
She's doing it silently.
Yep.
You know what we want to do too? That thing's rock and rolling
Like you want a Friday night.
You got this, boy.
That is
Pump. Oh. Well, there it is in all its glory. We finally have a chassis we can be proud of and that we can use. So this went through a full sandblasting and coating process. So first of all, obviously it got sandblasted, and it is quite a big job. There's lots of nooks and crannies in these things. Then it got hit with an epoxy zinc primer, which I've been told is the next best thing from gow dipping. And then we got an epoxy top coat, which isn't UV stable, but very, very tough and durable. And that's sort of what I was told to use on the chassis. And then after that epoxy top coat, or the tough coat chassis paint, he's gone and just put a nice gloss, just 2-pack over the top to stop it dulling off. So there is oodles and oodles of material on this chassis, and the whole thing cost about $1,500 to get done, which honestly is good value. You know, we were that far into it, having the body off the chassis, the engine out of the chassis. There wasn't much more to take off it to get it done. So any other bracketry we could get done that come off the chassis, like the drop boxes, cross member, front arms and upper arms, we also got done as well. We didn't get the diff housings done because it is one of those builds where we're only doing things if they really need to be done. We're not just throwing money at it left, right and center. These bloody projects are dear enough. So the swivel hubs, bearings, everything about those front and rear diffs seem to be in good condition, plus the fact that we have another whole spare set. I didn't want to have to go back and disassemble the whole thing. There's a lot of work in those hubs just to get the housings blasted. It's just not worth it. So we could put those housings in. They could do another 50,000 before they even need touching. That's one thing we're just going to have to find out once it's on the road. So we will go ahead, and as we're putting things back on it, things like that will be wire wheeled, and I do have a bit of epoxy and then top coat to put on that as well. We're just going to do as minimal as we can in the shed, obviously. That's why we got him to paint the chassis. But yeah, I'm stoked to get the project to this point finally. So we'll go ahead and start putting on what is painted. So we've got drop boxes, cross member, things like that, and we'll roll these housings under. Start wire wheeling. I've been missing that. I really haven't had to do any of that yet on this job, and I'm not going to have to do too much because of that process. So let's get into it. It's the little details in a project that make all the difference. And we took the Superior badges off the drop boxes before we sent them to blasting, cleaned them up on the wire wheel, so we'll pop them back on. We'll start by putting the drop boxes in. We'll have to go through, grab the bolts we need as we need them, wire wheel them, and then at the end I'm going to go through and just touch up the bolts with the spray gun, being that we do have a bit of that black top coat to tidy it all up at the end. Right, so we've got all the bolts laid out in groups, and I'll start doing that further. So the major suspension components are the bigger bolts, obviously, and these two suckers here we just wire wheeled, non-standard looking, so they'll be the bolt that goes into the top of the drop boxes. But look, I really am doing this as a trial and error sort of a situation, and I do have the spare chassis at the front to go and check on bolt locations, and we kind of knew that as we pulled it apart. Yes, we did go to a lot of trouble bagging up things with the 60 series, and it is a good idea to do that. We did know we had another one to go and have a look at, and generally it's pretty self-explanatory with the chassis components anyway. Alright, so we are putting a little bit of anti-seize on everything, or in my case that's just a bit of molly grease. Just if ever anything has to come apart, we're trying to make this vehicle sort of future-proof, be able to work on it. So this GQ roller we bought did come with a few really cool little upgrades in the suspension, being adjustable panhards, heavy duty rear drag link in the steering. So we're gonna just add one more little part to that puzzle, and that's some heavy duty adjustable rear lower control arms supplied by all 4x4 spares. Look, it's not a hectic off-road four-wheel drive, it's not meant to be that. It will be quite handy, don't get me wrong, it's a coil cab GQ, right, with a bit of a lift in it. But these are quite a weak point. If you're gonna hit anything off-road, it's usually those. And just the sheer weight difference, you can tell there's a lot more steel in these road safe ones. So we'll set those up to the same length and pop them in. And yes, I know what a few of you at home would be thinking. Why are you putting the sway bar brackets back on? Couple of reasons. This car potentially will have to get engineered because we may turn it into a 3-seater yet. 2, we want this thing to drive really nice on the road. Predominantly that's where it'll spend most of its life. So like I said at the end, all these raw bolts now will go around and touch up with that top coat black, and probably put paint all through my shed. Can't wait for that bit. Righto, this technically may not be the way to do it, but it seems though the arms or the front control arms that are so nicely painted, I'm going to try and hang them in the chassis, then I'll lower the chassis down to the ground and roll the diff into the front of it. So we've got genuine brand new Nissan rubber bushes, so again, we want to make this thing drive really nice, be nice and quiet, not a clunky big flex machine. So get them in, we've wire wheeled up all the big washers, and then obviously we'll grease the inside where they sit against the rubber, and then later on it'll get that paint on the outside with the rest of the nuts and bolts. There's definitely arguments out there for which side of the bush you grease. I'm going to go for all of it. Never want to go in dry, always grease your bush. Super nice. We've got a big skateboard now. She's sitting down on the bump stops, but it is rolling. I don't have the panhard rods in yet, so I'm hoping the axles don't move around too much. So I'll piss this one out of the shed now. It's time to get the old chassis and motor back in, lift the motor, then we'll wheel this thing back in under. Oh shit. I'll show the camera on for that. You would have enjoyed it, because I didn't. Woo, that's too heavy. We're up and in now. Just put it on the hoist. Pull this motor out. Yeah. Baby, please don't go. Baby, please don't go. So we really want to be able to pick it up pretty much at the exact same angle. Oh, you idiot. I am an idiot. At this moment, I've realised I've wheeled the chassis in the wrong way round, as the cab wouldn't allow me to wheel it back out. We've got a cab on the back, haven't we? Oh, shit. Need to turn it around. Oh, that's not easy. Turning around is like an easy solution, it's just not easy to do. Oh man, that was easy. Just click your fingers and turn it around. No, I did call on my wife, Megan. We dragged it out, spun it around. Now we pull the motor out. Oh. So you're currently tuned into STS Garage, where we do build four drives. We've done a 40 series, a 60 series, a 79 series, and then we've jumped the fence now and gone to a Nissan Patrol GQ coil cab. Now, as with most of these projects, they get off to a rough start sometimes and can stay pretty difficult all the way through. And to celebrate that, we've brought out a new shirt called Bad Life Choices, because if you're into building cars or just buying them to spend money on them and do up for that touring trip, we all know that sometimes some of these life choices are questionable, and it's about taking a bit of a light-hearted look at that. So if you can relate to this, head to smarttouringsystems.com.au and grab yourself a shirt. There's a few other designs there too. Get out! Rightio, the fuel lines are disconnected. It's just 2 bolts in the engine mount. The gearbox mounts are still loose from when we split the gearbox. So now that should come up, chassis should roll out. Easy. You. Right. We're free. Righto, so we most definitely have new transmission and engine mounts. So when we pull that apart, they just split. Every time I've ever done this, they generally just fall apart. They're always ready to be replaced. So yeah, they obviously come from all 4x4 spares as well. So heaps of parts for this job, just being delivered to the door, which is freaking handy. So we're getting to clean all the bolts up, put these retainers back on. So these will stop the motor from over torquing and falling out if these engine mounts do, or when they fail again one day. So there are something that I've noticed. Every job I've done, the engine mounts are always split when you go to pull them apart. Right, I think it's ready to go back in. All engine mounts, gearbox mounts, I've done. I think they're in the right way. Time will tell. Now, before I do anything else, I'm having a beer. It is Friday afternoon. That's awesome. We finally have a car that's worth building. It's taken a while. I reinstalled the old shocks for the time being just to hang the diffs so we could get stuck into wire wheeling and painting all those bits that we didn't get sandblasted. With everything painted, we went through and assembled as much as we possibly could. It's worth noting that it takes so much longer than what you think, because every nut and bolt needs to be wire wheeled and cleaned up, and then all the threads were full of paint, so it took a bit to free those up, but it was really good to see this thing starting to come together and look like a car again. Pretty lube? You're enjoying that, aren't you? No. Every time without fail. Ready? You're probably not supposed to lube that bit.
Yeah. You'll be right. Lube everything.
How are you supposed to get this in?
Too much lube.
Too much lube.
Hey.
Hey?
You're all over it, Barry. Barry.
Push it out there, Barry. See? All these fancy tools. We need a hammer. Holy!
Get that grease.
Right, so one of the Achilles heel with the GU GQ is the shock towers cracking. So we do have a shock tower brace, and it comes with a spacer for the brake lines and fuel lines. So we'll figure out how that goes together, but that can go in at this point. And then we nearly have a sort of half completed chassis. We do have a few ideas of what we're going to do with the suspension, which is a bit different, which we don't have that yet. And obviously these shocks won't stay in here, they're just to hang the diffs. So we set these brake lines back up in here and basically try and figure out where they go again. Which shouldn't be too hard. We kept them all together. We've taped up both ends. We did give them a clean, give them a bit of a Scotch-Brite, and like I said, towards the end of this chassis build, we're going to duck around and touch up anything with a bit of gloss black or satin black to make it look pretty. Alright, so we're just sort of doing some odd jobs, spend the rest of, what time I've got today on the chassis. So we're tidying up some of the body mounts. So we're not going to go and buy just brand new everything. I've scabbed through the two vehicles to find the two best halves of the 6 body mounts. We've even, reused the bolts. Out of the 12 bolts we had, we got 6 good ones. I wire wheeled them up, cleaned them up, painted them. Even the bolts themselves are quite expensive for the body mounts. Relatively speaking, no, but if there's nothing wrong with it, why spend the money, right? Well, we're going to leave it there, guys. Obviously, there's still a lot more to do to the chassis. There's no suspension in it. Those shocks won't be used. They're literally just to hang the diff housings. And we do have a bit of a cool idea for mainly the rear suspension. We're going to do something a bit different and really fits the bill for what this car is going to be used for. We have been doing a little bit of body work behind the scenes, starting to get an episode together on that. Obviously that takes some time. Body work is painful. There are some cool, exciting bits that we're doing to this body, but generally it's a lot of sanding. Until you put that bit of colour on, it's a very hard thing to make exciting. We have sort of come to the conclusion though, we probably will be ripping the turret off this, so we'll cover that in depth because no doubt that will be painful. It'll be much nicer to watch than it will be to do, I can assure you of that. So like I said, it's a real turning point in the project. We're actually starting to put some things back together. So that's the engine work's 99% done. There's not too much more to do to that. That's the chassis coated, all the suspension components back together, bar, springs and shocks really. And we're into the bodywork. So it is moving along. It doesn't look like much, but it will come together pretty quick at the end, I think. Enough from me. Don't forget, you do only live once, guys. Get out in the shed, get into that project. I'll see you next time. Where's the bloody 10 mil?